Well, hello. My name's Chris Pudney, and I'm going to be talking to you today about biochemistry at the University of Bath. So we have several flavours of degree here, the Bachelor of Science degree and the undergraduate master's degree in biochemistry. And both those degrees are either 3 or 4 years, depending on if you take the placement, but we'll get to that. I guess actually I have some credibility to talk to you about biochemistry at Bath because actually I did the degree here some years ago now, not so many years ago. So I graduated in 2005 and I did the undergraduate master's degree in biochemistry. And actually, I guess a few years later, after I'd done PhDs and postdocs and things, I actually came back to start my independent research group here, and I've been here ever since. So I do have something to say, I think, about the undergraduate degree here. You know, the first most important question is always, what is biochemistry? And most of the subjects don't really have to answer that question, but as biochemistry we do. And the reason is because biochemistry is quite a young discipline, so maybe 100, 120 years old, really no older than that. That's very, very young for a scientific discipline. And that's really because our discipline came about from the intersection of something about chemistry and something about biology and something about physics and something about maths and even something about engineering. And those things kind of all collided to give rise to this discipline of biochemistry. And it really has dominated, all of the 20th century and now, into the 21st century as well. So it's an incredibly modern discipline. And I guess we can understand it as something as the science between atoms and cells. And we do try and understand things in that sort of biological context between atoms and cells, but we might take a purely chemical approach, we might take a purely biological, physical, or even numerical, even mathematical approach. And so your flavour of biochemistry might be very different to my flavour of biochemistry. So I guess maybe I'm on the more physics side of biochemistry, if you like. Other people are more on the biology side, math, or more chemistry side. It really is personal to you and your interest. Because it's so broad, I guess because it's so young, it really rewards creativity in a very kind of extreme way. And so often in biochemistry, we try to understand fundamental principles between the atom and the cell, and then we seek to apply those to real world challenges. And so for that reason, biochemistry has a lot to say in terms of applied research and actually delivering solutions which make meaningful differences to our lives. So I'm going to give some examples, but you maybe don't realize that biochemistry really underpins modern life. Certainly in the West, the quality of our lives is really underpinned by biochemistry. And there's a bunch of nice little examples in the pictures here. The top right one here is discovery of penicillin, antibiotics. Nothing could be more key or crucial to how life looks now versus several hundred years ago. Everything that we have in terms of making fine chemicals, making plastics, making everything that we need, really we derive that from a biochemical understanding, from fermentation, from industrial fermentation, from engineering microbes to do what we want to do. So we can think of biochemistry in a broad range of ways, and we do often think in terms of health and medicine. And so an example we have on the slides here is maybe a little more important, which is the fingerprint test for diabetes, to test your blood glucose level. That's been so enabling and so transformative for so many people's lives, and it's just pure biochemistry. Of course, there are maybe less august examples, like biological washing powder. That's where you chuck some enzymes into normal washing powder and it does a slightly better job at cleaning your clothes. And also our chap on the top left there is in need of that. It sounds almost redundant and banal until you realize it's worth billions and billions and billions of dollars a year. It's an enormous industry, biological washing powder, and engineering and creating the enzymes that go into it. So really, I would say that biochemistry is the first choice for I think, modern biological science problems, because it's all about interfacing disciplines. It's all about leveraging the best from absolutely anywhere we can take it. And so for that reason, as a biochemist, you're necessarily versed in a broad range of science, not just biology and not just chemistry, to be sure, biology and chemistry, but you're going to take a little bit of something from everywhere. And the trick and the challenge and the opportunity in biochemistry is stitching that together in your way and the creativity of your thought to make something special. And for me, that's why it's a rewarding discipline. That's why I love it. Because you don't get exposed to too much biochemistry, I'm just going to talk about one or two examples of things that really inspire me, I think. And then, I want to go on and talk about the degree a bit more specifically. Antibodies are some of, I'm going to say the most important drugs in the world. And that's happened in the recent kind of 10 or 15 years. So antibodies, there's a nice picture of an antibody in blue there. It's a pretty large protein molecule. And of course, we have antibodies in our bodies that fight off infection. But it turns out these same kind of antibodies can be engineered and co-opted to be brilliant drugs, particularly anti-cancer drugs. They're really very, very impressive in what they can do. The challenge in making these molecules drugs is that proteins aren't very stable. The body doesn't want them to be stable. It actually wants to turn them over all the time, get them to do their job, make them, and then clear them out, ready for the next thing that needs to happen. If you want an antibody to be a drug then, or a protein to be a drug, it has to be stable. So you have to stabilize it very heavily. And the best example of why this is challenging is if you look at an egg. So an egg is pretty much just protein in my bottom figure here. And we know that you can apply a very small amount of heat to an egg, for example, and it will go from being translucent to completely white. And what's happening there is the protein, which it mostly is protein in an egg, the protein is aggregating together, it's clumping together and forming this opaque mass. That can't happen if it's a drug. You simply can't inject someone with particulate matter that's aggregated protein because it will kill them. And so the genius here was not just taking molecules that were efficacious as drugs, but engineering and changing their amino acid sequence so that they could be stable for the lifetime that you needed them for. And that's been enormously enabling and really allowed these medicines, I would say, to be the revolutionary drugs that they are. And again, if money's important, maybe illustrates how important they are. These drugs are worth hundreds and hundreds of billions, and the growth is quite astronomical. Everyone's going to be feeling this throughout their lifetime. So that's a really biomedical example, very now, if you like. Something that I'm interested in scientifically is fluorescence, quite a lot. And the guy up here is a jellyfish. And you'll find a lot of jellyfish can actually glow like this. It's a kind of a fluorescence, or if you like, bioluminescence that they give off. Actually, very many organisms in the deep ocean, we know, do this now. They'll give off some light. And the way they give off that light is they'll have a protein in them. And that's kind of shown as I guess, the little cage, the green cage, like molecule that I've got in the picture there. And that's called green fluorescent protein. That is a protein in these kind of organisms that has a piece of chemistry in the middle that allows them to fluoresce, to give off some light. And so it's called green fluorescent protein, right? So it's green, so our jellyfish is green. All right, fine. What we found we could do is we could engineer those proteins, we could change them around to give off different colors. So now we can have a green one, a yellow one, an orange one, okay, so on and so on. That's a neat trick, and that was actually deeply difficult and clever. But actually the utility of that is we can now tag these kind of colorful proteins inside cells, and we can now track that fluorescence down a microscope in cells so that we can actually see disease processes, for example, unfolding. We can understand how drugs interact. We can understand how fundamentals of life proceed at the cellular level, all because of this technology that comes from a jellyfish. Unsurprisingly, this won the Nobel Prize, and I think that's really so often the story in biochemistry, that it usually snaffles up the Nobel Prize in one of or both of medicine and or chemistry, and that makes the medics very cross and it makes the chemists very cross. But that's all because it's this interfacial discipline that is really speaking to applied challenges. I think also for me that the thing that's important about this example is that creativity aspect. Looking at nature and having the creativity of thought to think about how you can take good ideas from there and leverage them and apply them for human betterment and benefit. So hopefully you have a little more of a feeling of what biochemistry is, maybe some of the things we start to think about and to the level we think about them. And I want to talk about the degree at Bath, of course. So as I said, I took the degree here, so obviously I'm very pro it. But the important thing is that I can explain to you why it's the ideal biochemistry degree. And we work very hard to make this, I think it's true to say, the ideal biochemistry degree. So as a summary, you're going to be taught by world leaders, so that is what we call research-led teaching, where the experts in the field will teach you about their cutting-edge research. We have an incredibly high-quality student experience with a small ratio tutorial system with enormous amounts of support and very high-quality facilities. We're very proud to say that we, in terms of biosciences, have the best career prospects in the country, at least by a bunch of metrics. And so the chance of you getting the role and the job you want after the degree are the best you can have, essentially. Our support facilities for the degree and for our students in terms of pastoral care are really fantastic. And of course, that extends across the university and embedded it within the department as well. And something that maybe is further unique to us is our placement system. We probably run the most developed placement system of any university in the country. And I'm gonna, I think, show you why that's so important to a student and their learning, but also their prospects after the degree. So I think something that again sets us apart from other universities is that we do, I guess, what's called research-led teaching. And what that means is that the academic scientists like me who run research groups, I like to think top of my field, we're actually teaching you. So we don't have rafts and rafts of teaching fellows who just do teaching. The active research scientists will be the ones teaching you, and they'll be teaching you about their cutting edge research. So if I publish a paper, then I probably teach it in my final year classes. So you do get that, I think, the best quality education in contemporary biochemistry that you can get. We have a nice broad mix of biochemistry. I said biochemistry is everything from, maybe a more biological side, maybe a more physical side, maybe a more chemical side, but we have every range of that in our department. We have a really great mix of scientists here, and that feeds into our degree. And so just on the right here, I've got, I guess, a couple of the examples that maybe show some of that depth and breadth. And so right on the top there, we have something about drug detection and sensing. That's actually something my lab developed for detecting a particular class of drugs called SPICE. And I guess as a scientific discipline, that's almost just chemistry and engineering. Okay, so it's very much down that end of the spectrum of bioscience and biochemistry. Susanna Gebhard in the department, she's involved in projects for generating self-healing concrete, and that's where one introduces microbes into concrete, and then they precipitate calcite, which actually seals the cracks in concrete. And that's really important from a sustainability point of view, so that we don't have to constantly tear down buildings and put up new ones. Really exciting stuff. Quite a few people in the department are interested in neurodegenerative disorders, so for example Alzheimer's, and developing new technologies for working out how that disease begins and also the kind of drugs that we can use to ameliorate it. It's quite a big area for us. Understanding something about stem cells, stem cells have enormous potential biomedically, and David Tosh, in fact our head of department, is deeply active in looking at how stem cells differentiate and how we can leverage them to deal with really some of the most brutal conditions there are. Underpinning all of that, or maybe sitting inside of all of that, is a strong commitment to industrial partnerships and looking at the applied angles of our research. So, for example, from startups and spin-outs of our basic technology to generate it as a real-world product, if you like, or an applied principle, and also those interactions with industrial partners and working with them very, very closely. And so when we're teaching, I guess we also have that in mind, thinking about that applied side of fundamental science, but actually how we're going to use it in the real world. For that reason, our curriculum is very forward-thinking, very cutting edge. We're very, very proud about our curriculum. And because we're quite broad, actually, it gives you the opportunity to specialize down your particular route. So you might be really interested, as lots of people are, neurodegeneration or cancer or entrepreneurship and biotechnology, or antimicrobial resistance, or more reductionist biophysical science. There's depth and breadth all over the place that you can pick and choose from. The largest fraction of our research is extremely well regarded. We're very proud of our science here. We do really cutting edge, world leading research. the power is that you get to be taught it. If our research is something we're very proud of, I think the other thing that we always talk about is our support and our engagement with our students, and particularly through our tutorial system. So we have quite small group tutorials, so 5, 6, 7 students in a tutorial group is typical. And the tutor you have in the first year is the same tutor that you'll actually have throughout your studies. So you'll have them from year 1 all the way through your degree. You know, if you do that 5-year degree in the undergraduate masters with the placement year, you'll have the same tutor the entire time. We develop a great relationship because it's a small group tutorial. We can teach you better, we can support you better, and we develop a really strong and lasting relationship. I'm still in contact with my tutees who left a long time ago. We still talk, we're still engaged in if they need references, doing that kind of stuff, and still actively involved in their careers and trying to help and support them. So it's huge for us that the tutorial system is something we're really proud of. You'll also have a peer mentor, so that will be somebody doing the same degree as you, but in a different year. And they've got that kind of perspective on the ground, if you like, and so they can help and support you, particularly in the first year. It's really important to help you navigate what university life is like. Yes, in terms of the degree and the academics, but also some of the other side of things which will be new to you. We provide a lot of pastoral support through the tutorial system, but also the university has a very, very detailed layer of support from students, which dovetails with our own systems in the department. The tutor is there to listen to you, and they're not there to just listen about science and talk about science. If you've got a problem, we're here to support you, and we've got the connections and the contacts to do that in pretty much any and all aspects. Something that we're further proud of is our final year project system. So because we're all active research scientists and we teach our science, we run final year projects, which are research projects where the students get the chance to be involved in that cutting edge research. So you can very much choose what you want to do and who you want to work with. And then you can tune the direction you go in terms of that kind of experience of, okay, maybe research, but also that final year project could be something in finance, or it could be something in marketing, or it could be something in public engagement, or it could be a dissertation style project. So we're very open to the kind of things you want to do. And really people use that experience to tune their degree a bit further and to help prepare them for what their next step is going to be. We are very proud, of course, that we have the best career prospects in the country, assessed by the Guardian's Good University Guide in 2020. You know, the reasons for that, I think, are because the students are fantastic. Our students are brilliant. We are extremely fortunate that our students are fully engaged with the degree and fully engaged with the life of the university, which makes it a special place to work and study. I think we like to think it's got something to do with us, that we provide really strong support mechanisms for our students throughout their degree. But we can expect our students to go on and have jobs in roles that they want, and in very diverse ranges of jobs. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. Our students really are very highly sought after. You'll find our alumni in, let's say, all of the important places. Let me give you some examples. This is very near and dear to me. So I did the degree, right? And not so long ago, I graduated in 2005. So I guess that puts me at a certain age. But I like to think maybe an age where me and those people in my cohort are probably pretty established. You know, life looks pretty where I want it to be, and, you know, happy. And so I like to look at my friends in my cohort and talk about what they're doing, because I guess that's that kind of trajectory that you go from immediately leaving university and the kind of things you can expect to be doing. So James Hen's a buddy of mine, did biochemistry, and he did the 3-year BSc degree. And after his degree, he went away and did his MBA. And he now works as the corporate finance director for a very, very large media company. And so this is someone that did a biochemistry degree, and now they work for a large media company. Adam, I would say, was probably one of the best students, probably the best student on our degree. He did the 4-year undergraduate master's degree. He did his placement, I think, in South Carolina. And he never wanted to do biochemistry as a job. He wanted to do that degree because he was interested in the subject. He knew it was a hard science degree that would be a passport into something else. And that's what he did. And he's now the head of UK Power and in fact renewables for a private commodity trading company called Vitol. Maybe a bit more of a common route for our graduates is actually postgraduate medicine. So Claire Cook is a paediatric specialist now at the Bristol Royal Infirmary. So she did the undergraduate master's degree with me, and she immediately went to do postgraduate medicine, which is a rather shorter medicine course after your first degree. A lot of people want to do that because the biochemistry is generally considered the harder part of the medicine degree. And so that really provides our students with a lift in going into that kind of a route. And then me at the bottom, you know, I guess I'm the example of the most boring route, right? You know, that straight academic route of PhD and postdoc and then running a research group. Actually, since I came back to Bath, and maybe this speaks to why I came back to Bath and why Bath is special and important, is that since then I've been able to translate my research and take my research and apply it. And we actually started a company just last year with a technology for testing drug stability and hopefully making better, higher quality drugs. And so that's been a great experience. And again, I think speaks to the quality of the environment being really enabling. Our student experience is something that we're very, very proud of course. We have, you know, good metrics by all the metrics, if you like that. That speaks to the environment and how the university works to want to provide a high quality experience. But as I say, I think it's all about that interaction at the departmental level and within your cohort and your degree and your interaction with the research active staff. And I think our ability to really listen to you and have a bespoke degree in a lot of respects that allows you to tune things in the direction you want as you go through the degree to come out with the kind of degree that's your degree, if you see my meaning. Our placement system is very, very developed. University's been running its placement scheme for a very long time, so it has very deep connections everywhere, really. And so we're able to offer a placement to pretty much every student that wants to take it. It happens in year 3 of our course, and they're 12 months roughly, and they're usually paid. They might be in the UK or they might be around the world, and we're always adding new ones to the portfolio. If there's somewhere in particular that you want to work, our dedicated placements team will try to make that work for you and try and find a route in there. I think the important point about the placement system is that our team actually does the hard work for you. So they maintain the contacts, they find the placements, and then they set you up with the interviews and they help get you out there if you're going abroad. They help support you while you're out there, and you're not on your own when you go on placement. We keep contact with you and we keep an eye on you, a very close eye on you, and it's an enormously rewarding experience for our students. It makes a huge difference. The role can be research, and lots of people want to do research, but actually, you know, a lot of people want to do something office-based, something in finance, you know, something in marketing is very common that people want to do. And the placement system caters for that. A great example of this, I think, is, so I had a tutee a couple of years ago called Charlie, and Charlie was a bit like my friend Adam, right? So Charlie actually wanted to do biochemistry because he was interested in the degree, but he actually wanted to go and be a trader. Okay, he wanted to go into trading, and he always knew he wanted to do that. And so for his placement, we sorted him out with a placement working for BP. And in fact, he always wanted to do the graduate BP trading scheme. That was his dream. I don't know why, but that was his dream. By putting him in that placement role, he was then a known quantity to them, and I'm sure that helped him get into that scheme. And of course, he's in that scheme now, and I'm sure finish that scheme now. So it's a good example of how that placement system really enhances that student experience. The vast majority of our students do choose to do a placement, something like 80% of biochemistry students. That's not because we restrict it, that's because the other 20% decide for a bunch of reasons that they don't want to do it. Like I say, a lot of buddies of mine, when I did my degree, they chose not to do it. Placements are really everywhere and anywhere that you can imagine, and a lot of the places on the list here are research centres, if you like, wet lab research centres. But as I say, really the list extends into, you know, City of London and all over the world, really doing things that aren't bench-based research. So you really can tune it the way you like it. we should think about getting here. Maybe some of you know this, the grade requirements are an AAB, and particularly in biology and chemistry, that chemistry A level is really important to us. And an EPQ will of course always help. In terms of the IB, we're looking for a 36 point overall, and again in biology and biochemistry is what we look for. We have something about 80 places every year, roughly 8 applicants for a place, and so you know, I want to give some good advice, and maybe my good advice is to really make that personal statement. Show us why you're passionate about the discipline. The people that we want at the university are going to engage with the life of the university, you know, get involved with all the clubs and the societies and that kind of stuff, but they're going to be passionate about the degree. And that doesn't mean that you have to want to go and be a biochemist for the rest of your life as a career, but to be fully engaged with that degree while you're here with us. And so maybe express that in your personal statement. That would be a good piece of advice, I think. I'll just briefly talk about the course structures so there's no confusion. We offer a Bachelor of Science degree and an undergraduate Masters in Biochemistry degree. And so the first sort of 2, maybe even 3 years are common to that, where you'll do compulsory and some optional units. And that 3rd year is that optional placement year, though most of our students do take it up, as I say. In the BSc degree, you'll have your final year, which will be a lot more optional units, so you really can tune things the way you want them to be, plus your final year project that I spoke about. In the undergraduate master's degree, it's a little bit different now. You have that penultimate year now, which will be optional units, but a lot of preparatory work for undertaking a master's level units and master's level research project in the final year. And so that final year really does become, I guess, more like a traditional master's year, if you like. I think the undergraduate master's degree speaks to people that know they want to go into research and stay in research, and particularly go on to do a PhD, because it's quite a big advantage when you're seeking a PhD. What you can do, however, is swap on to the MBiochem degree or swap off the MBiochem degree at those kind of intersectional points. So you don't have to make the choice right now when you're applying. You can make that choice when you're actually here. And people do chop and change as they gain a little more experience and get more of a feeling of what they're wanting towards the end of their degree. I want to finish, you know, now on why Bath. We've talked about the department, and I'm sure you know a little bit about the university. I do want to point out that the research-led teaching is something we're really proud of. In addition to our tutorial system, we work really hard to be great scientists, and we work really hard to devolve that passion and that knowledge to you guys as undergraduate students. The campus is beautiful. It's lovely. It's an incredibly friendly and welcoming environment. It's a campus university on the top of a hill, and our community is really wonderful. I think I've said this before, but our student support across the university is tightly integrated and very, very well developed. We're very proud of our student support systems. The facilities here are fantastic in terms of sport and clubs and all of that other kind of stuff, which maybe you can find out from the university's pages. And you know, something we always talk about, staff and students, is our quality of life. We have an exceptionally high quality of life at our institution. And we do hope that you'll choose to come and join us. Thank you very much.